The cells in our bodies that determine our health respond to the chemistry released by the brain. And the chemistry released by the brain is triggered from the feelings in the human heart. What we know is that every moment of every day, there's a conversation between our heart and our brain. It's a two-way conversation. Our heart is sending signals to the brain, and based upon those signals, the brain releases chemistry into the body. When we feel frightened, angry, hate, jealousy, rage, frustration, that sends a very jagged, irregular signal to the brain, and it releases stress chemistry, which is good for a moment, but it's not good 24/7. There's an organization called the Institute of Heart Math. They're based in Northern California, and they are pioneers in uncovering the deepest mysteries of the human heart in ways that conventional science does not. So conventional science says the heart pumps blood. Well, you can make a machine to do that, but what else does our heart do? So the Institute of Heart Math, to answer your question, has documented the information. You can actually see the information between the heart and the brain when we feel feelings of well-being, appreciation, gratitude, compassion, care. Then the signal is a very smooth, rhythmic signal to our brain, and our brain says, the world is safe, so I don't need the stress chemistry. So it begins to release the anti-aging hormones in our bodies, and powerful immune response is created within our bodies in the presence of this smooth signal. The connection is called coherence, heart-brain coherence, and optimum coherence now has been measured. It's a very low frequency, 0.10 hertz. That is the language that whales communicate in the oceans. It's a very low frequency. So if we can create the feelings in our hearts, for example, of 0.10 hertz, that is an optimum connection between our heart and our brain, and that begins releasing the healing chemistry from our brain into the cells of our bodies, and this has been documented. It reduces high blood pressure, reduces vascular plaque, reduces the chances for stroke. When we are able to feel those kinds of feelings sustained over long periods of time, the immune system increases. The DHEA level is the precursor to all hormones in the body. Every hormone must have the DHEA. DHEA increases 100% from only 3 minutes of feeling the feelings, appreciation, gratitude, compassion, love, while the stress chemistry decreases 23% in the same time, and all we're doing is having a feeling. Those are the qualities that the body needs to begin to heal itself. So our bodies are designed to heal themselves. And our own science now has shown every organ in every cell, every organ in our body has now been documented with the potential to heal itself. Even organs we were told could not heal themselves. Brain tissue, heart tissue, spinal cord tissue, pancreatic tissue, all has been documented at regeneration and healing under the right conditions and the right environment. So the thinking of science is that the environment must come from a pill or a machine. Our most cherished traditions always told us that we had the ability to do this for ourselves, but science didn't really understand that. And now science is beginning to validate that we may create within our own bodies through the power of emotion, heart-based emotion, the very experiences that begin healing the human body. When our body has an illness or disease, we lose the faith in our body. We lose trust. And we must work to overcome that. And I think it's the greatest lesson for any of us to learn, because once we discover that we have that ability, we feel differently about life and our friends and our families, and we feel differently about our relationship to the world. So I can look at you and say, what I did was all the things that I learned to do to create the coherence, the heart-brain coherence, to heal the anger, to heal the hurt, heal the frustration, create the coherence between my heart and my brain to the best of my ability throughout the day. I did it as many times as I could. And I cannot say that is the only reason. As a scientist, I have to say I think it was a factor in the healing that I experience.
Did you know that your heart has an incredible, unique intelligence unto itself, or that it has a significant influence on our perceptions, emotional experiences, and higher mental processes? And did you know that the heart can actually sense your emotional response to an event before the event has occurred? You may have instinctively felt that the heart was so much more than a blood pump, but science has actually confirmed it. Researchers discovered that the heart has its own intrinsic nervous system that sends a lot of information to the brain, affecting the way we feel, think, and perceive. In fact, the heart actually sends more signals to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. Scientists refer to this as the little brain in the heart. But don't let the diminutive name fool you. The heart-brain can act independently of the brain in your head. Its neurons have long-term and short-term memory and extensive sensory capacities. The heart and brain communicate with each other in a complex dance. As we experience emotions through the day, our heart rhythm patterns tend to reflect how we're feeling. This information is monitored by the emotional centers in the brain, where they are then perceived as feelings of fear, anger, joy, appreciation, etc. When we get bogged down with stress, worry, impatience, information overload, or indecision, the heart's rhythm has a jagged and irregular pattern. The resulting disorder or incoherence in the nervous system creates noise or static that in essence causes the neurons in the brain to get out of sync, resulting in impaired mental functioning or cortical inhibition. We can feel energy drained with more mental fog, making it difficult to focus, remember things, listen deeply, and make clear decisions. However, on the upside, when we experience feelings like love, kindness, appreciation, or compassion, it creates a smooth, coherent heart rhythm pattern. This has a calming and balancing effect and creates more harmonious cooperation between the heart, brain, and hormonal system. This not only improves how we feel, but also our ability to think clearly. We can see creative solutions to problems and more easily discern intelligent choices and decisions. This is cortical facilitation. The good news is we don't have to wait until we happen to feel good to experience this uplift. We can choose to create it ourselves. Research shows that when we practice activating positive heart qualities, care, cooperation, forgiveness, etc., it has a carryover effect that increases the overall baseline of coherence in our system. So we have more resilience during stressful experiences and can more easily maintain our poise, confidence, and self-security when challenges arise. This is the intelligence of a coherent heart.
Now, we talked about this on one of the shows we were on, and you can turn on that response just by thinking about your problems. So now the arousal of those chemicals becomes almost like an addiction. It's
the familiar,
and you need the familiar stimulation to reaffirm that emotional state, right? Because that's how we feel alive. So we thought, wow, what if we teach people how to go from that narrow focus to broadening their focus and opening their focus and focusing on nothing material or physical. And when we did that, by sensing space, by sensing nothing, opening and broadening their focus, those different compartments of the brain that were firing out of order incoherently started to synchronize.
Got it.
Now what syncs in the brain links in the brain. And all of a sudden, the person starts to feel more like themselves. There's an integration. So we started noticing these elegant states where there was global coherence. In other words, we were measuring many compartments of the brain simultaneously. And when waves are working in order, when they're working in coherence, then the whole entire brain is working like a symphony. And you start feeling whole, and you start feeling clear, and you can think, you're coherent, you can have a vision or an intention of the future. So when we were doing these studies, we noticed that if we could teach people how to dial down their thinking neocortex, their analytical mind, and by sensing space, if you're sensing You're not thinking or analyzing, you're sensing, and you start slowing your brainwaves from that high beta brainwave state when you're in survival into these lower beta brainwave states and ultimately into alpha.
Okay, alpha.
Now,
Okay.
alpha is the creative state.
Mm-hmm.
Alpha is the imaginary state. That's when the voice in your head that's talking to you all the time, that default mode kind of shuts off, and your brain starts to see in images and pictures. You start imagining. It's an imaginary state. It's a creative state. So we use that state in the state of creation, but then we took it a little further. What if we could teach a person to slow their brainwaves down even more into theta? And in theta, you're in a hypnotic state. And the hypnotic states cause you to be very suggestible to information.
Mm.
And suggestibility is your ability to accept, believe, and surrender to information as the truth without ever analyzing it, and that's what exactly programs the subconscious mind.